What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pixel Therapy channel, the home of great games and even greater vibes. Today, I'm going to do a small little fun video. Essentially, I want to compare all the Rallycross off-roading sims out there, so namely iRacing, Project Cars 2, and Dirt Rally 2.0, and see if I can create a hierarchy of what I feel is the best of Rallycross experience. So it's just a cheeky little video. It's an opinion piece. If you agree with me, let me know. If you disagree with me, let me know why. And yeah, let's not waste too much time. Let's get straight into the video and do an analysis of the Sims. And if you like this content, please like and subscribe. I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Peace. And here we are, everyone. We are at the Phoenix International Raceway. So we're going to give the Volkswagen Rallycross car a whirl. And this is the full spec Rallycross car, the one with 560 brake horsepower. And to give you guys a little context of what I'm trying to sort of figure out is, first of all, I do want to compare the different sims and see how they've handled Rallycross and the physics and what that feels like. But I'm also very curious to see that since they've introduced Rallycross to iRacing, and it's been multiple years, how distinct is it from the regular track racing? And yeah, being someone who hasn't dabbled in Rallycross at all, generally most of my sim racing is actual track racing and just general rally rather than Rallycross. I'm very curious to see maybe if I've been sleeping or missing out on something quite interesting. So without babbling too much, let's just jump into the car and I can give you guys my initial thoughts. Okay, so initially the force feedback is a lot more pronounced than with the regular race cars. Um, and I would put that to it just being an all-wheel drive car as opposed to the rear-wheel drive car that you normally get with the race cars. Okay, that's cool. So essentially, in the gravel section, there's a larger slip angle, which can be expected. It's gravel, but there's a larger slip angle that you're able to play with the car, and just merely using your throttle, you can slide the car in a controlled slide and almost move sideways. It's not as pronounced in the tarmac but definitely here, like that, this is cool. It's almost an oxymoron to talk about having a controlled slide within iRacing, because generally with the track racing, your slip angle is quite limited, and once you go beyond that and go beyond the limits, you're generally a passenger. However, whatever they've done with the handling and the tire model for the Rallycross cars, both on the tarmac surfaces and in the gravel, you're able to play with it a little. And I'd imagine, obviously, that is to facilitate that side-by-side driving. But what it does is the force feedback coming through gives you a very distinct sensation of weight transfer, and you're able to use just your throttle like I'm doing right now to counter steer and balance the car coming in on a turn. And yeah, it's not as pronounced on tarmac, obviously, because then you get that intense bite of all the four wheels, but it is definitely a lot more forgiving than it is with the rear wheel circuit cars. Okay. Now regarding the force feedback on the gravel, I would say it's more informative than immersive. And these are my definitions of the words. So I have to define these so that you guys can understand what I'm trying to say. So when I talk about informative, I'm looking at things like weight transfer, being able to control the car on the limit, whereas immersive are more like your bumpies. So like the rocks and feeling the rocks coming in through the wheel and your surface texture. That staff, it's there. It is 100% there. However, it is not as distinct, nor does it feel like it was made a huge priority. Like, it's very subtle, almost negligible in terms of just that. Until what you feel rather is that reduction in traction so that you know you're on a different surface. But most of the bumps and the undulations in the road are coming in through the motion rig itself. It's almost as though the steering wheel is focused on the informative force feedback, and then the rest of the motion cockpit is dealing with like the bumps, the undulations, and that sort of a thing. This is fun. This is pretty cool. I do not know why I haven't been doing this as often, but and the bumps are a blast. So if you are like me and you maybe haven't been doing a lot of rallycross and iRacing, my advice is if you haven't given it a try, definitely give it a try. I can see myself doing a few more of these. Now I'm curious to see how the other sims compare to this, because this is a clean experience. And by clean, I mean that you have just enough information to know and control the car off the bat. And at the same time, it's still fun and it's responsive and you feel like you're in control. Okay, to give you context, I've probably done a total of 10 laps of Rallycross today, trying to take footage for this. And within those 10 laps, the reason I've been restarting isn't because I've been crashing, but rather either I've been misspeaking or there was this one time where someone else was on the server with me and he sort of disrupted the footage. But the point that I'm making is the information coming in through the force feedback is so predictive and you're able to control the car so well that I have never picked up a racing series in iRacing, say track racing, and felt so comfortable as I have with this. Because it's almost like I'm just purely driving on feeling. You know? I'm literally purely just driving on the feeling, and it makes like this is fantastic. So yeah, I'm curious to see what the other sims feel like, and I believe that iRacing has set a pretty high bar. Like I haven't messed around with the handbrake at all. I'll just probably give that a try, but see if we can drift around this using the handbrake. Oh, that is cool. That is awesome. Okay. Alright, I'm doing this. After I do these videos, I'm definitely jumping online and doing this. This is too cool. Okay. So, a brief summary. I enjoyed that experience. I'm sure you can clearly tell. I think that iRacing strong suits is the weight transfer comes in beautifully. The information through the force feedback around the amount of grip that you have from tarmac to the gravel surface is fantastic. Being able to control the car on the gravel, especially with just turning it in, messing around with the weight transfer, balancing the car on the throttle, that's a blast to do. The jumps are visceral. Like you feel when you do the jump, you feel it solidly coming in through the wheel. If you have a motion rig, it's even more because then you get that sensation with the lift off as well. Not necessarily just the compression when the car comes down. You get that and that slight dead air, and then you get the compression coming in. So all in all, I think I'll give. Actually, I'll wait. I'll do the other two, and then I'll moderate the scores, and then I'll tell you guys what I think of everything. But so that's iRacing done. Now we'll jump onto the next sim, and we will do Dirt Rally 2. All right, see you then. All right, so here we are in Dirt Rally 2.0. And essentially, I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm really pumped coming off of iRacing and giving the Rallycross try. Giving the Rallycross there a try. What is really got me jazzed about the iRacing was I enjoyed the how clean the force feedback was. There was a lot of fidelity. So you really felt that weight transfer coming through the wheel. And it didn't take a lot to sort of break traction and just sort of maintain and hold the slide coming in. Um, to be honest with you, a little bit of me was a little disappointed that that handling and that tire model, especially on the tarmac section, isn't in the road cars. But let's not get there. But it's yeah, I had a great time. And I just want to see how that compares to this. I want to see, is this as informative? Is this as clean, and is the fidelity high when it comes to this sort of experience? So I've loaded up a rallycross game in this, and essentially, unlike iRacing, I didn't have much luck getting a rallycross game on a rally track where I was going solo. So there are AI cars on here. However, what we can do is we just let them go right ahead, and then I'll stick behind, and then we'll have a chat about what we're feeling and what I think. All right, let's get into this.
To race, watch your launch. Go, go, go.
Wow. So off the bat, what you get is a visceral sense of speed. So you get more punchier motion and force feedback coming through from the sim. It's definitely a lot more aggressive. Okay. So here's the thing.
We're not gaining. We need to be catching up to the back of them as soon as possible.
So here's the thing.
We need to keep within striking distance.
The force feedback isn't as detailed in iRacing. It's there, but it's vague. You know, you can feel the weight transfer, but it's almost like they've broadened the slip angle where you can almost do what you like without any consequences. And what it's doing is it's inviting you to be more aggressive, to put your foot down harder, and to brake later. And then that then transfers into this insane feedback through the motion system. So it's totally a completely different philosophy compared with iRacing. When I was in iRacing, I felt like an ice skater, sort of going back where I was dancing and I was moving back and forth, playing with the weight transfer. However, there was a limit. I could feel the limit. I knew if I went over the limit, I would lose the car. This gives me the sensation of a fighter pilot, where I can just put my foot down and not have too many consequences. It's encouraging me to aggressively chuck the car into corners to get it to break traction and turn.
gives me place to on where we'll end up once all the drivers have taken their joker.
I'm gonna get in trouble for not taking the Joker. Okay, so it's definitely a good experience. However, it's not as refined. And what you're clearly saying is a distinct, uh, two distinct philosophies. So essentially, with iRacing, one is a lot easier to break traction with just the steering wheel, and you get this slip angle that's quite limited, where it's got distinct boundaries, and you play within those boundaries, and you're fine. Uh, there's a very distinct feel between tarmac and gravel grip surfaces. With Dirt Rally 2.0, it's like that slip angle is broadened, and the grip levels between tarmac and gravel are not as distinct. This car bites. It bites throughout, and you really have to aggressively chuck it in to lose traction. And when you do lose the traction, then you are able to play with it on throttle and sort of balance it. But again, it's a very vague area in which you play with. It's doable, and you're using more visual cues than with iRacing, where you get a solid feel within the steering wheel itself. Um, I guess it makes sense because iRacing prides itself as a sim. This is kind of a simcade, maybe more towards the simcade. I wouldn't necessarily say Dirt Rally is arcade, but it is a simcade, but more towards the sim side. But more than that, I just think it's a different philosophy. I think with this, they try and reward you to be aggressive, to be punchy, to accelerate really hard, to brake as late as possible, to chuck the car in and just kind of balance it and just kind of that door to door action. Whereas with iRacing, it's a little more graceful. So I think the example I gave was with iRacing, I feel like I'm an ice skater, sort of gliding through, and I'm on that knife edge of my ice skates, you know. And when I'm on point, I can feel I'm on point, and I can glide and maneuver across. But then if I get too greedy and I just kind of get off that, then it's gone. Whereas with this, I feel like I'm a fighter pilot. As in, I'm in the air, there are no boundaries, and I can go aggressive left and right, straight and back. And they're both fun in their own way, but one makes you feel more like you've got technical prowess, whereas this makes you feel more like a badass gymkhana, put your foot down, just kind of go balls to the wall. So I guess it depends on your tastes. But if you enjoy Rallycross, I don't see you disliking any of these two. Um, but I think I'm more impressed with what iRacing has pulled off than this. Okay, these are my thoughts on this. Let us jump into the next sim, which is an old favorite, Project Cars 2. Right, and here we are in a controversial title, but an old classic when it comes to off-roading. I mean, regardless of what people say, Project Cars 2 was a very ambitious title, and you got a lot of bang for your buck in terms of content. Now, whether that content was executed well, that is entirely up to you and for debate. But we're talking about Rallycross. So, to summarize, loved iRacing, extremely detailed, very technical in terms of the way the force feedback was and the way transfer was executed, and it makes you feel technical when you do it. Um, Dirt Rally 2 gave me the impression that it makes you feel like a superhero, adrenaline junkie, and like you are the next Rallycross champion. Now let's see what sort of sensation Project Cars 2 gives you. And yeah, let's just jump into it and see how we go. Similar thing, we're in the Rallycross lights in this particular instance, and we're still in Norway in hell. And yeah, let's just go for it. Okay, so this feels a lot more like iRacing in terms of it's not as visceral as Dirt Rally 2. This is surprisingly a lot closer to iRacing in that the gravel and the tarmac feel very distinct. Oh, definitely. There is a huge difference between the tarmac and the gravel in this. This is definitely in between iRacing and Dirt Rally 2.0. You definitely have more grip on both the tarmac and the gravel than in iRacing, and definitely more play in terms of the slip angle.
That's your best second 2 time so far.
Okay. This is
One length behind.
okay. So
Car right.
one thing that's distinct with this is the sensation of weight transfer is not as pronounced.
Still there.
The grip levels, you can
Got
definitely
one on your
feel
left.
them.
Okay, he's cleared you.
We'll just get the game to go quiet. So like the sensation of weight transfer going from left to right in the force feedback is not as pronounced. It's just this mudgy sensation of just either high grip, low grip between tarmac and gravel. However, in terms of controlling the slip angle, I don't think Project Cars has ever had an issue with that, and that's clearly coming through. Both on tarmac and on gravel, you're able to play with the slip angles. But it lacks, again, like Dirt Rally 2.0, it lacks that fidelity within the weight transfer going back and forth. And I'm inclined to think that this is sort of like an in between, where with iRacing you had the fidelity of that coming through. You didn't necessarily get that visceral adrenaline type sensation. This is about the same thing. You start to lose the fidelity. You don't really get that visceral adrenaline sensation. And then with Dirt Rally 2.0, you get that adrenaline of go, stop, go. So arguably, I would actually like this isn't bad, but it's so in the middle. It doesn't commit to either, and because it doesn't commit to either philosophy, it almost just kind of falls flat. So I would then say I would say iRacing is the winner, followed by Dirt Rally 2.0, but they are on completely two ends of the spectrum. But it's because they've committed to two totally different things, there's actually a camp to put them in. And then this is just kind of in the middle, but with no distinct characteristic of what it wants to be. It's not bad, but I found that with iRacing, I instinctively knew how to drive the car because it was so informative. Whereas with this, I can see myself having to do a few laps and actually kind of try and figure out how the vehicle works and how the physics work to be able to have a good time with it. So, yeah, those are my final thoughts. I think it was just a short, fun video. Let me know if you guys like it. Let me know what you guys think. And yeah, we'll just end it there. Please comment if you want to comment. Don't take any of this too seriously. Don't argue. Don't fight. It's just a fun video. These are my opinions. I think iRacing is better at Rallycross, followed by Dirt Rally 2.0, and then Project Cars comes last. So, anyways, have a good time. Look after yourselves, and I will catch you in the next video. Peace.